Have you ever wondered how a Hollywood production got Soviet military helicopters during the Cold War? The Hind attack choppers in Rambo III weren't real Soviet aircraft, but elaborate deceptions involving Israeli modifications, and one actually crashed, killing 2 crew members during filming. Today we're counting down 20 weird facts about Rambo III's Soviet Hind helicopter that will completely change how you see this legendary action sequence. From a replica built on a Puma chassis to diplomatic incidents that nearly shut down production, these revelations might just blow your mind. So, buckle up, hit that like button if you love 80s action films and military aviation, and let's fly into the secrets behind Rambo's most explosive aerial battle. Number 20. None of the Hinds were actually Soviet helicopters. Every Hind helicopter appearing in Rambo III was a fake. Not a single genuine Soviet Mi-24 attack helicopter appeared in the film, despite the aircraft being central to multiple action sequences. In 1987, when Rambo III began production, obtaining actual Soviet military equipment was impossible. The Cold War was still active, and the Soviet Union would never provide military helicopters to a Hollywood film portraying Soviet forces as villains in Afghanistan. The production faced a dilemma. The script required multiple Hind helicopters for crucial battle sequences, but genuine aircraft were completely unavailable. Producer Buzz Feitshans contacted military equipment brokers worldwide searching for Hinds. Several non-aligned countries operated Hinds, but none would lease them for a politically sensitive American film about the Soviet-Afghan War. The solution required building convincing replicas from scratch. Special effects supervisor John Richardson supervised construction of 5 Hind replicas using various base aircraft. Some were built on French aerospatial Puma helicopters, which had similar size and configuration to Hinds. Others were constructed as non-flying mock-ups for close-up shots and destruction sequences. The replica construction took 8 months and cost approximately $1.2 million, nearly 10% of the film's total budget. Each flying replica required extensive modification to make French or British helicopters resemble Soviet attack aircraft, while remaining airworthy and safe for stunt work. Number 19. The replicas were built in Israel, using French helicopters. The Hind replicas were constructed in Israel using French-made Aerospatiale A330 Puma helicopters as base aircraft. Israel was one of few countries willing to support an anti-Soviet film during the Cold War's final years. The Israeli Air Force operated Pumas and agreed to lease several aircraft to the production. However, Israeli military involvement had to remain unofficial due to diplomatic sensitivities. The modification work happened at Israeli Aircraft Industries facilities near Tel Aviv. Engineers studied photographs and intelligence reports about genuine Hind helicopters to understand their appearance and dimensions. The Puma and Hind had similar overall size, making the Puma an acceptable foundation, despite completely different design philosophies. Israeli fabricators built fiberglass and aluminum exterior panels that attached to the Puma's frame, transforming the appearance while maintaining flight characteristics. The modifications included fake weapon pylons, stub wings, a modified nose section, and a distinctive greenhouse canopy resembling the Hind's tandem cockpit configuration. The work required remarkable precision. The panels had to be lightweight enough not to affect flight performance, but sturdy enough to withstand rotor wash and high-speed flight. Each modified Puma weighed approximately 400 pounds more than stock, requiring recalculated weight and balance. Israeli test pilots flew extensive trials, ensuring the modified helicopters remained controllable despite altered aerodynamics. The Israeli contribution remained classified for years to avoid diplomatic complications with the Soviet Union. Number 18. One replica crashed, killing 2 crew members. The most tragic fact about Rambo III's production was a fatal helicopter crash that killed 2 crew members. during filming of a low-altitude flying sequence, and one of the Hind replicas crashed in the Arizona desert. The modified Puma was performing a scripted low pass when the pilot lost control. The helicopter struck the ground at approximately 60 miles per hour, killing the pilot and the aerial cameraman instantly. The crash investigation revealed that the modification panels had created unexpected aerodynamic instability. The fake stub wings generated lift differently than engineers predicted. During the low-altitude pass, turbulent desert air combined with the modified aerodynamics caused sudden loss of control. The pilot attempted to recover, but insufficient altitude prevented corrective action. The National Transportation Safety Board investigation took 4 months. Investigators concluded the modifications made the helicopter less stable than a stock Puma, particularly in turbulent conditions at low altitude. The NTSB recommended against further flying of the modified aircraft without extensive additional testing. Korolko Pictures, the production company, faced potential criminal negligence charges but ultimately paid a confidential settlement to the families. Production shut down for 3 weeks following the crash. Director Peter McDonald was devastated and considered quitting the film. Sylvester Stallone personally attended both funerals and established a fund for the families. The remaining helicopter sequences were filmed with increased safety margins and additional restrictions on low-altitude flying. Number 17. Sylvester Stallone refused to fly in the replicas.
Krenna was strengthened in Rambo First Blood Part 2 as they joined forces.
After the crash, following the fatal crash, Sylvester Stallone refused to fly in any of the Hind replicas despite scenes requiring him in helicopter interiors. Stallone's contract gave him creative control and safety approval over all stunts. After witnessing the crash aftermath, he declared the modified helicopters too dangerous. This created massive production problems. Several scripted scenes showed Rambo aboard a captured Hind helicopter. The sequences required Stallone to be visible in the cockpit during flight. Director McDonald pleaded with Stallone to reconsider, arguing the remaining flights would use stricter safety protocols. Stallone refused. His stand-in and stunt doubles could fly in the replicas, but he would not. The production built a full-scale Hind interior mock-up on a sound stage as a compromise. This mock-up sat on a gimbal platform that could tilt and vibrate, simulating flight. Stallone performed all helicopter interior scenes in this stationary mock-up with blue screen backgrounds. The mock-up construction cost approximately $150,000 and required 3 weeks to build. Aerial footage showing the Hind in flight was filmed separately using doubles. Editors then composited Stallone's mock-up performances with the aerial footage. The deception worked seamlessly, but required extensive post-production work. Stallone's refusal added approximately $200,000 in additional costs and delayed production by 4 weeks. However, his safety concerns were vindicated when a second near crash occurred during filming. Number 16. The Hinds used different base aircraft for different shots.
Commander F.D. Hoskins. Puma is the first Anglo-French aircraft to enter service with the RAF.
The 5 Hind replicas weren't all built on the same base aircraft. Budget constraints and availability issues forced the production to use whatever helicopters they could obtain and modify. 3 replicas were built on French Aerospatiale Pumas as primary flying aircraft. 1 replica was constructed on a British Westland Wessex helicopter for backup flying sequences. The 5th replica was a complete non-flying mock-up built from scratch for destruction scenes. Each base helicopter had different performance characteristics despite similar modifications. The Puma-based replicas handled differently than the Wessexan-based replica. Pilots had to adapt their flying technique depending on which aircraft they were operating. The Wessex had a different engine sound than the Pumas, requiring sound designers to carefully match audio in post-production. The non-flying mock-up was built on a steel frame with fiberglass exterior. This mock-up was used for ground scenes, close-ups of weapon systems, and the climactic destruction sequence. It could be transported on a flatbed truck and positioned as needed. The mock-up cost approximately $120,000 to build, but was destroyed in a single explosive sequence. Maintaining continuity between 5 different aircraft with different base types was a nightmare for the script supervisor. Detailed logs tracked which replica appeared in which shots to ensure visual consistency, despite the varying aircraft foundations. Number 15. The fake weapons were inspected by ATF agents.
Can you fly that thing? Let's find out.
The Hind replicas featured elaborate fake weapon systems, including machine guns, rocket pods, and anti-tank missiles. These replica weapons were so convincing that Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms agents inspected them to verify they weren't functional weapons. Federal law prohibits unauthorized possession of certain military weapons and explosives. The Hind's replica armament looked authentic enough to raise legal questions. Special Effects Supervisor John Richardson built the weapons using aluminum, fiberglass, and rubber. The machine gun barrels were hollow aluminum tubes. The rocket pods contained wooden rocket shapes painted to look genuine. The anti-tank missiles were fiberglass shells with no internal components. Despite being completely inert, the weapon's realistic appearance drew ATF attention during filming at Yuma Proving Ground in Arizona. Federal agents visited the set and conducted thorough inspections. They disassembled the fake guns, verifying no firing mechanisms existed. They examined the rocket pods, confirming they contained no explosives or propellants. The anti-tank missiles were X-rayed to ensure they were hollow shells. The inspection took 6 hours and temporarily halted production. After confirming everything was non-functional, ATF agents approved continued filming, but required the production to mark all replica weapons, with identifying labels to prevent confusion. The labels had to be removed digitally in post-production, adding approximately $30,000 in visual effects costs. Number 14. Soviet military advisors tried to sabotage production. Soviet intelligence services attempted to disrupt Rambo III production through various means. The KGB viewed the film as anti-Soviet propaganda that would damage their international image during the ongoing Afghanistan conflict. Soviet agents contacted Israeli officials, requesting they deny filming permits and equipment access. Israel refused, supporting the production despite Soviet pressure. Soviet diplomats approached the Pakistani government, where some location filming occurred, requesting they expel the production. Pakistan also refused. More directly, Soviet military advisors working in countries near filming locations attempted sabotage. In one incident, a technical advisor hired by the production was actually a Soviet intelligence officer. He provided deliberately incorrect information about Hind capabilities and operations, hoping to make the film's portrayal inaccurate and laughable. The production's genuine military consultants caught the discrepancies and the advisor was fired. In another incident, equipment shipped to filming locations mysteriously went missing. Several crates containing helicopter modification parts vanished from a shipping facility in Cyprus. The parts eventually turned up in a Soviet embassy warehouse. Most dramatically, Soviet agents allegedly offered bribes to helicopter pilots, asking them to refuse flying for the production. The bribes ranged from $5,000 to $20,000 per pilot. All pilots refused and reported the attempted bribery. These sabotage attempts failed, but demonstrated how seriously the Soviet Union took Hollywood's portrayal of their military. Number 13. The rotor sound was recorded from a real Hind years later.
Or attack. This one was flown for both reasons. The Hind, however, was...
The distinctive rotor sound heard when Hind helicopters appear in Rambo III wasn't recorded during production. It couldn't be. The Puma and Wessex base aircraft sounded completely different from genuine Hinds. The Soviet Mi-24 has a unique rotor sound due to its 5-blade main rotor configuration and powerful turbine engines. Sound designer Lon Bender needed authentic Hindi audio to make the scenes convincing. During production, no one on the team had access to real Hinds to record their sound. Bender used generic helicopter sound effects as placeholders during editing. Years after Rambo III's release, Bender traveled to East Germany following the Berlin Wall's collapse. Former Soviet equipment became accessible as East Germany transitioned away from communism. Bender found a retired East German Air Force Mi-24 at a military museum. Museum officials allowed him to record the helicopter's engine and rotor systems. These recordings were used to replace placeholder sounds in Rambo III's special edition releases. The original theatrical version features generic helicopter sounds. The 1995 special edition and all subsequent releases feature authentic Hindi audio recorded years after filming. This unusual post-release sound replacement was unprecedented. Few films have returned to improve sound design years after theatrical release using equipment that wasn't available during original production. Number 12. The production paid Afghan Mujahideen for helicopter footage. Some of Rambo III's most dramatic helicopter sequences feature genuine Soviet Hinds being shot down or destroyed. This footage wasn't filmed by the production. It was purchased from Afghan Mujahideen resistance fighters who filmed actual combat during the Soviet-Afghan War. Throughout the 1980s, various Mujahideen groups documented their battles against Soviet forces. Several groups used cameras provided by Western intelligence agencies to document Soviet tactics and equipment. This combat footage included genuine Hind helicopters being destroyed by Stinger missiles and rocket-propelled grenades. Korolko Pictures contacted Mujahideen representatives through intelligence intermediaries, offering to purchase combat footage showing Hind helicopters. The production paid approximately $50,000 for various clips totaling about 8 minutes of usable footage. The footage showed real Hinds in flight, taking fire, and in several cases being shot down. This authentic combat footage was edited into Rambo III, adding realism impossible to achieve with replicas and special effects. The ethical implications of purchasing war footage were controversial. Critics argued the production profited from real violence and potentially encouraged combatants to film dangerous situations. Korolko defended the decision, stating they purchased existing footage and didn't commission new combat filming. The purchased footage appears primarily in montage sequences, showing the Soviet-Afghan conflict's brutality. Number 11. The climactic explosion used 40 gallons of gasoline. The spectacular Hind explosion that concludes Rambo III's helicopter battle used the non-flying mock-up loaded with explosives and gasoline. Special effects coordinator Joe Viscatsil designed an explosion that would be visible from over a mile away and create a fireball exceeding 100 feet in diameter. The mock-up helicopter was positioned in the desert and rigged with 40 gallons of gasoline mixed with rubber cement to create thick black smoke. Explosive charges were positioned throughout the structure to fragment it convincingly. Additional charges were placed to launch helicopter pieces in specific directions for visual impact. The explosion was filmed with 7 cameras at different distances and angles. High-speed cameras captured the fireball's development at 96 frames per second. The blast was so powerful it shattered windows in buildings over half a mile away. The explosion created a mushroom cloud visible from Yuma, Arizona, 15 miles from the filming location. Local residents called emergency services, reporting what they thought was a major accident or attack. The production had notified authorities, but the notification didn't reach all relevant agencies. Fire departments and police responded to the explosion site before being turned away by production security. The explosion cost approximately $60,000, including the destroyed mock-up, fuel, explosives, and multi-camera setup. It appears on screen for approximately 4 seconds, but became one of the film's most memorable images. Number 10. The Desert Heat destroyed 2 helicopter engines. Filming in the Arizona and Israeli deserts created catastrophic mechanical problems for the Hind replicas. The Puma helicopters were designed for temperate European climates, not desert operations exceeding 115 degrees Fahrenheit. The extreme heat caused 2 complete engine failures during production. Turbine engines require specific operating temperatures. Excessive heat reduces air density, decreasing engine performance and increasing stress on components. The desert environment pushed the Puma engines beyond design limits. The first engine failure occurred during a formation, flying sequence. The helicopter's turbine overheated, lost power, and forced an emergency landing. The pilot managed to set down safely, but the engine was destroyed and required complete replacement. The second failure happened during a low-altitude chase scene. The engine seized completely mid-flight, forcing another emergency landing that damaged the helicopter's landing gear. Each replacement engine cost approximately $250,000. The engines had to be shipped from France, causing production delays totaling 3 weeks. After the second failure, the production implemented strict operating procedures. Helicopters could only fly during early morning hours when temperatures were below 90 degrees. Flight times were limited to 30-minute intervals with mandatory cooling periods, and additional engine monitoring equipment was installed to detect overheating before catastrophic failure occurred. Number 9. Soviet Defector pilots provided technical consultation. The production secretly hired 2 former Soviet helicopter pilots who had defected to the West during the 1980s. These pilots had extensive Mi-24 combat experience in Afghanistan and provided invaluable technical consultation. Their involvement remained classified for years to protect their identities and families still in the Soviet Union. The Defector pilots reviewed scripts, correcting tactical errors and unrealistic maneuvers. They explained authentic Hind combat procedures, weapons employment techniques, and pilot communication protocols used by Soviet forces. They advised on how Hind formations actually operated, how pilots responded to ground fire, and what vulnerabilities the aircraft had in combat. However, their consultation created tension with the film's dramatic requirements. The defectors insisted real Hind tactics were more cautious and defensive than the aggressive flying shown in the script. Director Peter MacDonald wanted spectacular aerial combat, regardless of realism. The compromise involved using authentic tactics for establishing shots while allowing dramatic license for action sequences. The Defector pilots also identified numerous details the replicas got wrong: instrument panel layouts, pilot positioning, communication equipment placement. Most corrections were too expensive to implement, but some details were adjusted in close-up shots. The pilots were paid $10,000 each and credited as military technical advisors, without names to maintain anonymity. Number 8. The replicas required 40 pounds of counterweight for balance. The exterior modifications that made Pumas resemble Hinds created severe weight distribution problems. The fake weapons, armor panels, and modified nose sections added weight in locations different from the Puma's original design. This shifted the helicopter's center of gravity dangerously forward. Helicopters require precise weight and balance. The center of gravity must remain within specific limits, or the aircraft becomes uncontrollable. The Hind modifications pushed the Pumas outside safe limits. Flight testing revealed the modified helicopters had dangerous nose-heavy characteristics. They wanted to pitch forward uncontrollably, requiring constant back pressure on the controls. Pilots reported extreme fatigue from fighting the imbalanced aircraft. Aerospace engineers calculated that approximately 40 pounds of counterweight needed to be added to the tail section to restore proper balance. Lead weights were fabricated and bolted into the tail boom, hidden from camera view. The counterweights worked but created new problems. The additional tail weight increased stress on the tail rotor drive shaft. The shaft had to be reinforced, requiring partial disassembly of each helicopter. The modifications and testing took 2 weeks per aircraft. The weight and balance issues weren't fully resolved until midway through production. Early flying sequences show pilots visibly struggling with control inputs, fighting the nose-heavy characteristics before counterweights were installed. Number 7. Afghan veterans criticized the film's tactical inaccuracy. After Rambo III's release, Afghan war veterans and military analysts heavily criticized the film's portrayal of Hind helicopter tactics. Real Soviet Hind operations in Afghanistan followed specific patterns the film completely ignored. Actual Hinds flew in pairs or larger formations for mutual support, never alone, as shown throughout the film. They attacked from standoff distances using rockets and missiles, not close-range strafing runs. Real Hind pilots avoided flying slowly at low altitude in hostile territory, the exact opposite of the film's depiction. Soviet tactics emphasized high-speed attacks, rapid egress, and maintaining altitude above small arms range. The film showed Hinds hovering at low altitude, providing easy targets. This would never occur in real combat. Veterans also criticized the weapons employment. Real Hinds rarely used their chin-mounted guns in Afghanistan, preferring rockets and missiles fired from safe distances. The film showed constant machine gun fire at close range. Military aviation publications published detailed critiques identifying dozens of tactical errors. Some critics argued the film's inaccuracy was so extreme it constituted propaganda rather than entertainment. Others defended artistic license, arguing entertainment value outweighed tactical authenticity. The controversy generated significant publicity, but didn't affect box office performance. Audiences were entertained regardless of tactical accuracy. However, the criticism influenced later military films, which employed more realistic technical advisors to avoid similar credibility problems. Number 6. The modified cockpits created dangerous blind spots. The replica Hinds modified cockpit canopies created visibility problems that endangered stunt pilots. Genuine Hinds have a distinctive tandem cockpit with the gunner forward and pilot elevated behind. The Puma has a side-by-side cockpit configuration. Creating the Hinds tandem appearance required installing new canopy structures that significantly reduce pilot visibility. The modifications added thick frames and small windows that blocked the pilot's view in critical directions. Pilots couldn't see directly below the aircraft, limiting their ability to judge altitude during low-level flying. The canopy frames created blind spots during turns, preventing pilots from clearing the flight path before maneuvering. The reduced visibility contributed to the fatal crash. The investigation noted that the pilot may not have seen the ground proximity in time due to cockpit visibility limitations. After the crash, aerospace engineers recommended reverting to original Puma canopies for safety. Director McDonald refused, insisting the Hind appearance was essential to the film. The compromise involved installing additional mirrors and cameras to improve pilot situational awareness. Small video cameras were mounted externally, displaying images on cockpit screens showing areas blocked by the canopy modifications. This partially compensated for visibility loss, but added weight and complexity. Pilots remained uncomfortable with the restricted visibility throughout production, reporting near misses during several sequences where they couldn't adequately see their surroundings. Number 5. The film required diplomatic clearances from 7 countries. Rambo III's production involved so many international elements that diplomatic clearances were required from 7 different countries. The complexity of international coordination added approximately 6 months to pre-production planning. Israel provided helicopters and modification facilities, but required assurances the film wouldn't portray Israeli involvement. Official documents couldn't reference Israeli cooperation. France manufactured the Puma helicopters and controlled export restrictions on military equipment. French authorities had to approve leasing Pumas to a film production. Pakistan allowed location filming but required script approval to ensure no negative portrayal of Pakistani territory or people. The United States required export licenses for certain equipment and technology transferred to international filming locations. Britain provided the Wessex helicopter and required similar approvals as France. Afghanistan wasn't directly involved, but Mujahideen representatives operating from Pakistan required assurances about the film's portrayal of their struggle. Even Soviet cooperation was sought for technical information, though obviously denied. Each country's diplomatic clearance involved different government agencies, approval processes, and political considerations. The paperwork exceeded 2,000 pages. Coralco Pictures employed international lawyers and diplomatic consultants full-time managing the approval process. Several times, filming nearly collapsed when one country threatened to withdraw cooperation. The international complexity made Rambo III one of the most diplomatically complicated film productions of the 1980s. Number 4. The stunt pilots were paid more than the lead actors. The helicopter stunt pilots performing the Hind flying sequences were the highest paid individuals on Rambo III's production, earning more than Sylvester Stallone per day of work. This unprecedented payment structure reflected the extreme danger and specialized skills required. The primary stunt pilot, a former military aviator named Rick Hawley, negotiated a contract paying $25,000 per flying day. Stallone's daily rate during filming was approximately $18,000. The supporting cast earned far less. Hawley's premium compensation was justified by the extraordinary risks. He flew modified helicopters with questionable stability, performed low-altitude maneuvers in desert conditions, and operated aircraft that had already killed 2 crew members. Insurance companies required premium rates for any pilot willing to fly the Hind replicas after the fatal crash. Hawley's contract also included extensive liability waivers and insurance provisions protecting his family if he was killed during production. The other qualified stunt pilots received similar compensation, between $15,000 and $20,000 per flying day. The production used stunt pilots for approximately 45 days throughout filming. The total stunt pilot payroll exceeded $800,000, nearly 8% of the film's total budget. This inverted pay structure, where stunt personnel earned more than stars, was virtually unprecedented in Hollywood, but reflected the genuine danger involved in Rambo III's aerial sequences. Number 3. 2 replica helicopters still exist in private collections. Of the 5 Hind replicas built for Rambo, 3 survived and remain in private collections. The fate of each replica varied dramatically. One replica was destroyed in the climactic explosion sequence. The replica involved in the fatal crash was scrapped by investigators. The 3rd replica was damaged beyond economical repair during a hard landing and was sold for parts. The 2 surviving replicas took divergent paths. One Puma-based replica was purchased by a military vehicle collector in Arizona for $80,000. This collector spent approximately $150,000 restoring it to flying condition with proper Puma configuration, removing all Hind modifications. The helicopter now flies occasionally at air shows as a restored Puma, with its Rambo III history mentioned, but not visibly apparent. The 2nd surviving replica, the Wessex-based version, was purchased by a film memorabilia collector for $120,000. This collector maintained the Hind modifications, displaying it as a movie prop. The helicopter sits permanently grounded at a private museum in England. It's maintained in the exact configuration seen in the film, complete with fake weapons and Soviet markings. This non-flying display piece has appeared at several film anniversary events. Both surviving replicas have appreciated significantly in value. The restored Puma is worth approximately $400,000. The Hind configured display piece is valued at over $600,000 due to its unique film provenance and maintained movie appearance. Number 2. The Soviet Union banned the film, but pirated copies became bestsellers. The Soviet Union officially banned Rambo III, prohibiting theatrical release or legal home video distribution. Soviet authorities declared the film anti-Soviet propaganda that misrepresented their military operations in Afghanistan. However, the ban backfired spectacularly. Pirated VHS copies of Rambo III became among the most popular black market videos in the Soviet Union. Street vendors in Moscow, Leningrad, and other major cities openly sold bootleg copies. The forbidden Western film depicting Soviet military defeat became highly desirable precisely because it was banned. Soviet citizens wanted to see what their government didn't want them to see. Intelligence analysts estimated that over 2 million pirated copies circulated in the Soviet Union by 1990, more than in many countries where the film was legally released. The bootleg copies were often poor quality, recorded from satellite television broadcasts or smuggled theatrical prints. Many had Russian subtitles added by unknown translators. Some copies featured creative overdubbing, with amateur voice actors providing Russian dialogue. The widespread piracy actually served as effective anti-Soviet propaganda. Citizens watching the film saw their military portrayed as brutal occupiers. Whether viewers believed the portrayal or not, the film contributed to growing public awareness and criticism of the Afghanistan war. Soviet authorities' attempts to suppress the film only increased its distribution and impact. After the Soviet Union collapsed, Rambo III was officially released in Russia and former Soviet republics, where it sold poorly because everyone had already seen pirated copies. Number 1. The film's original ending featured a crashed Hind massacre. Rambo III's most disturbing deleted scene involved the aftermath of a Hind helicopter crash, with a twist that test audiences found too violent. The original script's climax featured Rambo shooting down a Hind filled with Soviet special forces. The helicopter crashed and survivors emerged from the wreckage. Rambo then systematically executed the injured survivors using captured Soviet weapons. The sequence was filmed completely, lasting approximately 8 minutes. It showed graphic violence, including Rambo shooting wounded soldiers, begging for mercy. Director Peter McDonald included the sequence to demonstrate the brutality of the Afghan conflict and Rambo's moral descent. Test screenings in early 1988 revealed audiences were horrified. Focus groups described the scene as disturbing, unnecessary, and making Rambo a villain. Even viewers who enjoyed extreme action found executing wounded enemies unacceptable. The negative reaction was unanimous across multiple test screenings. Coralco Pictures made the difficult decision to completely remove the sequence. The 8 minutes were cut entirely, replaced with the current ending where the Hind simply explodes. The deleted footage still exists in Coralco's archives but has never been publicly released. Even the unrated director's cut and special editions omit this sequence. Peter McDonald later stated removing the massacre scene was the correct decision, acknowledging it crossed a line that made Rambo unsympathetic. The deleted sequence remains one of major studio action films' most extreme cut scenes. The Hind helicopters and Rambo III transcended Cold War cinema to become symbols of ambition, tragedy, and geopolitical complexity. From fatal crashes to Soviet piracy, every frame carried the weight of a conflict Hollywood tried to capture but could only approximate. The replicas that never were prove sometimes the greatest illusions exact the highest costs.